Hello, everyone. Come on in. We're going to take just a couple minutes to let other people join in with us. And we have an extremely important conversation that we're going to have tonight. So, as you pop in, we would love for you to write in the chat box, like, what is your biggest thing that brought you to tonight's webinar? Is there a specific issue that you're going through? Are you preparing just in case? And just so you know, if you want it to be an anonymous response, you can go to that bottom of the chat box and click, instead of everyone, you can say hosts and panelists. And if you choose that, I will make sure to not say your name so that you can be anonymous. Having said that, most people that are coming tonight are dealing with similar things as you are. So we definitely, can be open about this and just chat and be supportive of each other. So go ahead and pop your answer down there. For those of you who just joined, I was just asking that in the webinar chat box that you put in there what brought you here tonight, because your time is valuable, and the fact you're spending an hour with us says a lot. It says really a lot about your parenting. Let me see. Let me check everything, get the control board all ready to go here. You are welcome to ask questions as we go tonight. There's the best way to do that is to put it in the Q&A box, which you can find near the bottom of your screen. What this does is it keeps us in a really tidy little box for us, and it doesn't get lost in the chat box. So, and you can pop in your questions at any time. We will make sure we come back to those and answer them at a time where it kind of makes sense. All right. Claire, before we get started, I will tell you a couple of the answers that have come up here. Our son is having a difficult time adjusting to sixth grade, strong feelings of sadness and feeling trapped, lots of crying and no energy or spark. Someone else's daughter is starting middle school, and it says, and is liking it. I don't, that may be not liking it, as would be my guess. I love to learn and hear about what to look for in my children's development, and also to help me be aware of issues. Someone else, anxiety with math, navigating school life, friendships, feelings of sadness. I'm here to help my kid overcome her anxiety about middle school. She's hard on herself. Anxiety with English. So we got a lot of anxiety here. So all of you are
Yeah.
in the right place. So welcome to tonight's webinar. For those of you who are new, this is called the Parent Chat, and it's powered by Balance in Mind, which is funded by the Lake Washington Schools Foundation. There was a point where we realized that parents in our district really needed better access to mental health resources. And as we know, everything ties into mental health. So tonight, specifically, we're talking about anxiety, and we have a very special guest who's joining us from Australia. So, and has so much experience. I'm so happy that she's able to join us. And Claire, I'm going to invite you to kind of come on and just tell us where you're coming from, like your experience and things of that sort.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for having me, Cherie. This is a really, in a way, it's an area that I'm really passionate about and have spent my whole career in education, really working with younger children and doing the best that I could for them so that they grow and develop, within the normal limits and really are healthy, happy little people with a real spark for life. So I'm coming to you from Australia, as you said, and a southern state, Victoria. And in Victoria, I live on the Mornington Peninsula, which is a beautiful part of the world, southeast of Melbourne. If you've flown into Melbourne, it's southeast. And if you do intend to come to Melbourne, I would say take a drive down to the Mornington Peninsula. It's really a beautiful area. So that's where I'm coming from.
I'll put that on my list for sure. I have not been there yet. Excellent. So tonight we are going to be talking about supporting your child when they're refusing or resisting going to school. And I'm going to just have you take it from here, Claire, and I will ask questions that come up that I think might be relevant. But everyone remember that this time is for you. So, ask away and we'll make sure we answer those questions as well.
Okay, so just in starting, I, I was wanting to make a bit of a impression with the first slide, and with this slide, I kind of thought it's a bit of a metaphor with about life in general, really. And there's lots of little threads going through our life, and it's the same with as children develop. There's lots of strands to their development. And and if we take it with their development to the area of schools, there's lots of strands within schools that can influence or what your child will experience. And I kind of thought that those threads wove together really nicely. So that was what I was kind of thinking of. So tonight I'm going to be focusing on supporting your child when they're refusing or resisting going to school. I'm hoping to cover a little bit about my background of experience. Um, I'll talk about schools and what they what they bring for the child, the expectations that schools have for children or of children, and the challenges within the school setting that the children face. And each of them face, there are different challenges for different children. I'll talk about anxiety. I'll weave that through. And please feel free to ask me any questions if I've skipped over something that you think you'd like to know a little bit more about. I'll share some strategies to help with school anxiety. A key strategy being the building of confidence and the development of resilience. So here's a little bit about me. I've been married for 53 years. That's a long time.
Yes.
Um, I have three adult daughters who are all in their 40s, and I have twin grandchildren who are now 18, and we only have the two, and they are absolutely divine. And I'll show you a little photo of them shortly. Um, Now, my background has been primarily in education. I've been there my whole career. I began as a classroom teacher in the primary school, which I think is your elementary school, if
Right.
I'm correct. And I have focused on the foundation or the preparatory year through to like years 3 or 4. That's where I've really concentrated my teaching time, because I believe that if we get the early years right, that even before school, 0 to 8, it makes a significant impact on the subsequent years the children go through. So I'm really interested in early intervention as a key strategy for the prevention of problems. Now, I've specialised, I'm known as a literacy intervention specialist, because in the classroom, I became very concerned about children who were struggling to get underway in reading and writing. And when they experience those struggles, they begin to separate from their peers. They start to fall behind their peers. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I could do would help children to maintain a good growth trajectory that would help them keep up with their peers and move through their school years. Unfortunately, some children do still continue to fall behind, And the time to take action when you notice a problem is when you notice it. Don't wait, because these sort of problems, when a child is behind in their schooling, then they know they're not as good as their peers, and they start to worry and become anxious about that because they want to be like their mates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm also currently a lecturer at the university at Monash University, and yeah, that's where I was yesterday, actually delivering two lectures in the acquisition of literacy and more broadly teaching and the learning for young children. And part of that is the development of children in those early years so that they become competent learners. And I also do coaching. I've been coaching for many, many years. I've coached um, parents, teachers, children, um, fathers, which I never saw that. I always sort of thought that I would be coaching more on the female side, but I had three men referred to me, which was, something that I didn't even envisage. Both of those, the three of them were fathers, so that was interesting. And something that I'm really proud to be is a Rotarian. I volunteer my time to support our local Rotary Club as a member and the activities that we engage in, fundraising activities to meet requests from the local community. Currently, we've got fires, weird weather. One day we had fires, and then today, that was a couple of days ago. Now they've been put out by really heavy rainfall, and now we've got floods.
Oh my
So a
gosh.
Rotary Club will come in, and we either help on the ground or we send funds to purchase whatever's needed. So I love being a Rotarian.
That's
Um,
fantastic. Claire, can I ask you something? Right, I want to point out to the people who are joining us tonight is that Claire, you are predominantly focused on the younger kids, like as you were
yes,
saying, zero really up until about 8 years or so. So
yeah,
for those of you who have older kids, there is stuff that don't worry, like there's still stuff that's going to be relevant to you and we can still ask questions about the older kids, and Claire will answer as best as she can if she has that knowledge. Otherwise, we'll collect those questions and answer them offline.
yeah, yeah.
Very
The
sweet.
time, a lot of the principles that we need to develop in relation to behavior you're concerned about, um, it's all transferable
Mm-hmm.
to different ages, that. So um, I hope that tonight, and I'm glad you asked me that, Cherie. Let me know, and I'll broaden out my response.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so there they are. These are our twins, a little girl and a little boy.
Oh,
Um, and that photo is taken 1 hour after they were born. So they're although they're twins, they are very different personalities, different strengths, different things they don't like. Um, they're just two very, very different little people. And we've encouraged that so that each child takes on their own persona, their own life. Um, but they are twins. We didn't know that we had any twins in our family before these two were born, but they're just divine. But the other reason that I've put this photo up is because when a baby is born, it is a real miracle. It's a true joy for the family. These little ones, though, they've got their whole life before them. They are born with what I like to call pure potential. Pure potential. They don't know failure. They don't know fear. They don't know anxiety. They don't know anything about what the challenges of life might be. They've got their whole life before them. So we can give our children the best shot at developing in typical ways through, these are some of the things you can do: creating strong connections and relationships. It's having strong connections with family and the relationships with anybody, the family, different friendship groups. It might be their sporting team that they might have a relationship. Do they belong to a club? Have you got them involved in a sporting team? Those all offer wonderful opportunities to broaden out their association with different children and the leaders of the clubs. And when children belong to these, they belong to a family, they belong to clubs, or wherever they go to enjoy time, that shapes their identity. And it is really important that each child know who they are. And we give them that opportunity to develop their own identity. They're not a nobody. They are a somebody, and a somebody who has special skills, special interests, and special talents. And we need to develop those. But if we're going to develop them, we first of all got to be aware of them. So we need to support their social and emotional skills. So by participating in those clubs and different activities that interest them, that take them a little bit broader than the family, they develop really important social skills. And emotional skills they're really an important area to develop, but they're not an easy area to develop. We want children to be aware of emotions and to work their way through emotions. We can't sweep their emotions under the rug or just say you'll be right or whatever the situation is. There are skills that we need to support our children to develop. Encouraging and motivating the children to learn and grow. Now, follow their interests. Now, I remember when Jet was like around two, he and his dad, my husband is a truck driver, and he's driven interstate, and he's driven lots of he's a real typical tradie. That's what we call them in Australia. Do you have tradies where you are?
I don't know what they're called. Somebody maybe can put that in the chat of what we would call them here. I've heard that
It's
term.
someone that
Yeah.
has the hands-on skills.
Hmm.
My husband liked driving equipment, so he's got lots of tickets in, like earth moving equipment
Hmm.
and digging in the dirt
Yeah.
and driving trucks. But what I was going to say was Jet used to love sitting on Pop's knee, and they'd look at the truck magazine because that was what my husband was always reading. And, he'd look through it, and then he became aware of the different sorts of trucks, and he could differentiate them. Like there's Mercedes-Benz and Iveco, and no, is it Iveco? I say them wrong. But anyway, also Ford and different trucks. And then Jet became, like when he was 3, he could name the trucks. He could also name the parts of the truck, like the wheels, the petrol tank, the petrol cap, the bull bar, all the different things that are part of the truck. But it was a shared experience. That's the point. Really sharing and extending the knowledge of the child in something they're interested in. And so giving them the time to do that.
I
The
think
other
that's
thing,
key, Claire, what you said of what they're interested in, because sometimes we kind of have, oh, we want our kids to be doing this and interested in this, and so steer them away from the stuff they are naturally drawn to, and
yeah,
that's taking away some of that excitement of learning. So we have to
yeah, it
let them
does.
explore.
Yeah, and when you're sharing, I tried to find a lovely photo of Jet sitting on Pop's knee, and there was another one that I had where Pop was reading his book about trucks, and Jet was reading his book, just the same, an adult book about them. But the conversation, the interaction, it is focused. It is not disturbed by background noise, It is warm and rewarding. And it's building a vocabulary, a rich vocabulary for the child to carry forth when they're learning to read and when they're learning to talk and then learning to read. So it's very important to have that close, warm feeling of being connected and conversing, but more on that after. And developing, like when you develop the child's skills in like oral language and awareness of their bodies, what they're feeling, developing them emotional intelligence is important, but it takes skills, and that's where a parent coach can guide you in developing this, because not everybody has emotional intelligence. And I've worked many, many years, more than 50, and
Hmm.
even teachers, a lot of teachers don't have emotional intelligence. Um, to deal with some of the situations that the children, that present to them by the children. And I've talked about things that develop them.
Hmm.
Now, schools are really complex places, and that's why I've got that notion of threads running through this as a metaphor. Here they are, their first day at school, off to school. Everything is before them. We've got the new school shoes, we've got the uniform, all their shoes are polished. They're really looking forward to going to school. But if you look a little bit more closely, Jet here, to me there is a little bit of uh,
Yeah.
uncertainty, a little bit, whereas his sister is a little bit more out there. She's okay. She's ready to go. He didn't resist yet, but I was reflecting on this when I was putting this together. But anyway, this is day one of their school, um, and it's all before them. So schools really are complex places to navigate. They really are. And I know, because when I go to school, I have, and I visit teachers because I train teachers as well. Um, they are complex to navigate. So, first of all, schools offer an experience which is different to anything that they've experienced before. They're just starting. A whole new world is about to open up to them. the buildings are enormous. And when you go inside, the corridors are huge. If you imagine being a little child, they look like they're enormous, so long. And then coming off the corridors, there's multiple rooms, so those sort of physical features of the buildings can give rise to perhaps a little fear of getting lost. There's so many kids in the school, hundreds of kids. There's different zones that they can go into that they have to learn about where they can go and where they can't go. And there's, you know, surrounding rules. There's schools rather. There's so many rules, and more rules. For example, the classroom teacher has all these rules. Then if they leave that, when they leave that classroom and they go to the art room or the specialist art teacher or the librarian, each one of those has their own set of rules. It's amazing, the kids have to learn to navigate within this classroom, wherever they might be. And it's challenging. And I think as parents, when we drop the kids off, um, we don't really know. I know because I'm in the schools, but maybe we don't really know what's challenging these children. What are they faced with every day? And it's exhausting because they're constantly wired up. They've got to be on alert. There's not really any downtime, which is so important for children.
Well, and also, Claire, along those lines, you're kind of talking about when they start school when they're young, but the same thing happens when they go from elementary to middle school here, because all of a sudden they have
Absolutely.
6 or 7 teachers. Like you're saying, every classroom has different rules, different expectations. Some teachers are really nice, some are not lenient at all, some are super strict. It's a lot.
It does. That's exactly right. Every year is a new teacher. And I remember with Jet and Eden, they weren't in the same classes, but at the end of the year, they know whose class they're going to be in next year. And preceding their arrival is the opinions of the children
Mm.
about their next year's teacher. And I know on different occasions they were really worried that they were going to have this coming year, with a teacher that, I don't know, all the gossip about, someone didn't like them, they were
Yeah.
horrible, or they shouted. Some teachers do shout, and
Yeah.
that's not my style, because raised voices excites that, fight or flight feeling in the
Hmm.
child, raises the cortisol level. And we can't do anything about the behavior of the teacher, but we can prepare our children with some strategies and skills, that might help them cope with that. um, each Within the school, each teacher has their own expectations. Each school has their expectations about where the kids play at playtime. The instructions that go with whatever they're doing. Instructions have to be heard. They've got to learn to listen, and they've got to learn to follow, because it's ultimately crowd control. Your child is one of a crowd. And if they don't do the right thing, then they stand out. And then they can be pointed at by, Johnny, get to the end of the line, or Johnny, come here. It's they're constantly wired, and I think they just get exhausted as well. It's
Yeah.
stressful for them.
Which
Anybody.
explains why, yeah, when the kids come home from school, they're so wired because they've been holding it all together all day. And
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot. As you're describing this, Claire, and tell me, give me a thumbs up or something on reactions if you're feeling this. I'm feeling the anxiety that kids are feeling, like thinking about the halls filled with kids, thinking about all the teachers. And when you just said that, like, hey, Johnny, I can remember, like, I didn't get in trouble often, but when the teacher would call out, like that, my name, it's like my heart stopped. So it's
yeah.
kind of like they're constantly all day, am I going to get called out?
And fear
Especially,
builds.
yeah, yeah.
That's so true. And, you think about, and then, because of the noise and the distractions, it's very easy to lose sight of, what the teacher at the front's saying, and
Hmm.
then they do get called out, or they get stuck, if they've got to go on to a particular task
Hmm.
or whatever. They can't stay on focus all the time. I can't.
Yeah.
So it is challenging for them, and we need to understand these stresses. Is this helpful, do you think, Cherie, just to
Yes, it
outline?
is. It is. It
Um,
is. Yeah, to kind of start with understanding where this is coming from. And, you're, of course, talking about the younger kids, but it's all relevant to the older
it's
kids. Yeah.
all
Same.
relevant,
Yeah.
because every child prep, well, I'll just say foundation, or the very first year of school, right up to year 6, is confronted with all of these things that I've been talking about.
Hmm.
It's all the same. Um, and it's just the age of the child that's different.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they don't experience these things.
Hmm.
Um, a big expectation on the part of schools is that your child is independent. Now, that means that they've got good toilet hygiene, they know how to go to the toilet, and they can look after themselves. And I know accidents happen. Accidents happen. I remember when Jet was in year 6, he had a soiling accident. It was just an accident. It was the onset of diarrhea, but he was mortified, you know. And then to deal with that, what he had to do was go back into the classroom and to just tell the teacher quickly. And
Hmm.
then they've got to be sent to you have a friend, you're not allowed to walk around the school by yourself. So you've got to have a friend to take you to the office, to contact mum or nanny, to come and get them, because Jet's had an accident.
Yeah.
Imagine, it's mortifying. He
Yeah.
still remembers it to this day.
Hmm.
Um, the independence, when they're eating their lunch, can they eat their lunch? Is their lunch, that's for young children? Do they know how to tidy up after themselves? And all of these things, like packing up, tidying up, requires organisation. And like if they're packing up when they might have had, say, free play at school, just as a broad example, they've got, stuff goes everywhere, all over the floor, the tables, or whatever. And then they've got to learn to tidy up. Now, you can't just put things anywhere and clear the space. Things have to be sorted, and blocks go in the block basket or the box, Lego goes here, something else goes there, the crayons get put away, all sorts of things, and everyone is expected to take a part. You can't stand around and be idle. Now, that if we take that to home, we can develop these schools in the home. These skills, did I say skills or schools? We can develop these skills in
Yes.
the home. It is important for a child to develop a sense of contribution, a sense of responsibility, that sense of self. I'm using, I'm taking care of it, and I've used it, and I put it back in its place for the next time, or for somebody else. So we layer these expectations down at home. Um,
I love this.
Eating.
Claire, one of the things I do want to say about this and thinking of, as they continue to get older is, they're learning these skills. And oftentimes in the school, it's very punitive if you don't have that skill down yet. And if we
Yeah.
fast forward to middle school, they forget a pen or a pencil or their paper or something. And it's like, how did you forget that? And so we as the schools need to and the teachers need to be more mindful that they're learning these, but then we as parents can kind of support them, as you're saying, to learn these skills. But if they do forget things, not to be like, how could you do that? Their brain's offline half the time, so it's going to happen. So
It
Claire, I want to
is.
make sure that we are able, because we have like 20-ish so minutes. So I'm wondering, can we talk about like the anxiety piece? I don't know
Yes,
what you
yes.
have on next.
Okay, so I'll flick forward to the next slide, because what I want to say, this is where anxiety really,
Mhm.
we get started with it. We need to be thinking about learning is going from what we know into something new. It's taking us out of our comfort zone. It's learning to fit in at school, it's learning a new subject, it's learning to read or whatever. And the children, the uncertainty of going out of their comfort zone into the unknown. Learning is about taking a risk. It's about having a go in any setting, any skill or whatever. It's incremental, moving along. It doesn't matter whether it's in a new social setting or in a new task that the school teachers set, or a new activity in the library or the art or whatever. They will look to compare themselves to others and what the others are doing, in the fear that they are, you know, they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. Okay. So repeated fears and problems really do impact on their learning. All right. And often, well, every child is different. Every child has their background knowledge or their backpack they put on when they go to school of what they know and have experienced. And there are vast individual differences. And it's very difficult for teachers to cater for the unique differences of your child. So they tend to group them together. And that's a compromised position. Not every child fits into the group with the same knowledge or skill level. And that can be stressful for some children. And so often these children don't get to finish tasks. If they're slow to start a task, they're slow, they take their time and they don't get to achieve mastery. And
Mhm.
that's frustrating.
Yeah.
If you start to just say an adult level, say you're watching a movie and you get 3/4 of the way through and your husband flicks it off, aren't you mad? Doesn't that make you mad? Makes me mad. My
Yeah.
husband, but the same thing happens to kids. They're just, say they're constructing something on the floor, this beautiful building, and then, oh, it's time to pack up. So the building has to be deconstructed, packed up, put away.
Yeah.
Now, that can be really frustrating. And you think about that time and time again throughout the day. It's highly anxious. And these little ones um, were off to school. I want to come back to this because they're going to the school zone, which is a go it alone zone. Schools are go it alone zones. They don't have their parents, they don't have their support systems. Even Jet and Eden, with their very close relationship, they were in different classrooms, and that was challenging for them, separated from their siblings. Schools are outside of their experience. Now, children at any age change schools. You go from one year level, like what you're talking about, the early years, to the middle years. or whatever. There's a whole new set of rules and expectations there. And it can be really, they get really worried about it. So a big threat to our kids was the teachers, who are all different. And some are not really soft and gentle. Some, are very do this, do that, and, weren't you listening if you get it wrong kind of thing. And it's very challenging for the kids. So anxiety is everybody experiences a bit of anxiousness. And we know that, when your child's got symptoms of when they get worried, or when you think about yourself, when you get worried about it. And it depends on how important the thing is that you're worried about as to the symptoms that you might feel. I know Jet, who has experienced anxiety, had the physical symptoms. He had the pain in the stomach. He felt nauseous, he would be very super sensitive. And it's very easy to give in to those sorts of things and think, well, he's not well, I'll let him have a day off, or I'll give him a break. But absenteeism is a contributing factor to increasing anxiety.
Can you
Because,
can you tell us more about that, Claire? Because I know that,
yes,
like, I even encourage mental health days, like a certain number of mental health days per semester for kids. Kind of like we as adults take sick days. So dive into this one a lot. I think we need to hear about this one.
yes. Um, but just simply put, if the if the child's not at school, the teacher can't teach them.
Mm.
The teacher delivers, say they're doing maths, a maths concept, they're learning about addition. So the first lesson of addition is delivered today, but your child wasn't there. So tomorrow the teacher will add on to what she's done today, and your child goes to school tomorrow, but he's missed what she talked about today. So he's sort of behind the eight ball already, because the teacher it's such a busy time in the classroom. They very often don't go back over what they delivered yesterday. So if your child has repeated days off, that accumulates, and they miss a lot of instruction. And when they miss a lot of instruction, then they can't engage with what's on offer or expected in the activities that they're doing at school. Or and they will give it a go, but they're slower to get started. And when a child starts to, miss school, they consequently do tend to fall behind their peers. It takes them longer to get started on the activity, because they'll be looking around for cues to get started. And while they're looking, everybody else is moving forward in the activity, for example.
And
Say
then,
it's a worksheet.
well, Claire, I'm sorry, let me interrupt because I want to make sure we dive into this a little bit. So they're getting behind academically. So how does that then affect the overall anxiety and getting them to school and lead to school refusal? Because I imagine that's
Yeah.
part of it.
So when they start to fall behind, they know that they're not as good as their peers. They're not as fast as their peers. Everyone wants to belong and be seen as, someone who's good at what they're doing, who's as good as their peers. They can stand their own. Typically children who are very anxious, the cortisol level has risen up and they can't get started on the activity. Either they don't know where to start or they can't think clearly. Okay. So that's the time to really take action. When you know I see anxiety really as I've got there on a continuum. So there's a little worry that they've got. So you need to deal with the worry at home. They'll come home and they will tell you. Sit and listen to them, talk to them about it. And if it's not dealt with, they become a little bit more anxious about it. And then anxiety, which is a little, strong. I'm seeing it as a little bit stronger. We all feel a little bit of anxiousness about new scenarios. But when we've got the notion in our head that I'm not as good as my mate, then we're going to, it's the pain versus pleasure. We will do more to avoid the pain than we will to gain the pleasure. The pleasure is to avoid going to school, miss out on, you don't have to face that terrible stress of not knowing, in the company of your peers, right? So then you get, that's the resistance part. And then as resistance continues, then you get, as the kids get older, the absolute refusal to go to school. So it's kind of builds up. It starts somewhere where there's a worry, and that's when we need to be attentive to it. So the idea is to be proactive, not reactive. You can't blame the school. Blaming and shaming doesn't work. That's not good modeling for the child. It is the child with the problem. So whatever is contributing to it, we need to unravel that. So when the child comes home, as early as you notice a concern, the time is to sit down then and there and talk. Stop what you're doing. Sit with the child. It is no good peeling. You're not going to get the full impact if you're trying to say, peel the potatoes to get ready for the evening meal and tell me all about it while I've got my focus on the potatoes, while my child's trying to talk to me. No, that doesn't cut it. The idea is to stop what you're doing, find a very quiet, calm place, eye-to-eye contact with the child so they know that you're listening. They know that you're there for them, and they know that what I'm saying matters. I matter. I'm important. And then together, or while they're talking, all you do is listen. Listen, 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 without you coming up with an agenda, of what you're going to do.
That's the
Listen to
hard
the
part
child.
there. That's hard. Hard for us parents
It's
to not have the agenda, but when we can let that go, the listening is much richer and deeper.
It is. And if you just let the child talk, they're learning about their feelings, they're learning about their emotions. They've got the outlet of putting it into words, and that's educational in itself. That's learning and laying a foundation for emotional intelligence. So we want to help them to be calm, and they will be calmer if you are calm. All right? Do some breathing with it. There's a lovely little exercise that I've learned with that I've used, where you follow the breath with your slow movement. So if a child, it's a good way of breaking the state, where so you breathe in, stop, breathe out, stop, breathe in, stop, breathe out, stop. So you have that little pause in your breath, and you go all the way like that, and then you go all the way back slowly, soft voice, and the breathing breaks the state. And when you break that state, you've broken that, interrupted that emotional pattern. So that's a simple little activity that I use. I use it for myself, you know.
Mhm.
You want to try it? It's really, really
As you
helpful.
were doing that, I was following along. It's very effective, and so we can help our kids by doing that with them, but it's a tool they can take with them and do on their own. Even the little bitties, right, can do
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. And if they, you know, feel embarrassed doing it, they can go to the toilet or something at school and just do a little self-soothing, self-calming
Mhm.
activity. Now, one thing with children, all ages, we all love touch. Touch is a foundational human need. It is critical and it is healthy to have touch with our children. So, massage is a lovely thing to do with your children using essential oils. Use essential oils, and all kids lay them on the kitchen table if you've got to, and do a lovely family massage. Or tonight it's your turn, or whatever, you know. Teach them how to massage you. So it's that giving and receiving, you know. It's a lovely thing. The other thing that's really important, how would you describe the noise level in your home? Is your home a quiet environment? Is your home a noisy environment? Is the TV blaring all the time in the background? Children with anxiety, and we do as adults, even for our own mental health, anybody's mental health, to get into a quiet, peaceful environment without any auditory noise behind us, because we need to slow down and be still, be calm and quiet. And that helps the children. Just sit. Just sit outside on a chair. Um, if it's raining, we often sit out on our deck, and it's raining, you know, and you just look through the rain, and what do you see and what do you feel? You know, all of these things are opportunities for the child to learn about their bodies and their feelings and their emotions. So, what is resilience? I'm just mindful of the time. Resilience, just simply put, is the ability to bounce back without continuing on any adverse or maladaptive sort of behaviours. And important factors in the development of resilience include the awareness of the different children. Everybody reacts to things in different ways. We want them to be able to navigate their way through things that have occurred. Um, the environment that we raise our children in has a huge impact on the development of their resilience. In fact, the way we live impacts on our children, because that becomes their normal. So you think about your normal at home and the normal, what the children take with them in their little backpack to school, what serves them and helps them, what doesn't help them. How are we solving problems at home? Do we negotiate things? Do we share? Do we take turns? Are we organized? Do we have little routines that help us order our lives at home? It's the psychological, social, and emotional habits that we teach that can boost our children's resilience. And that's what I work on when I'm empowering mums in coaching. I do a lot of this sort of work. So at home, what you can do to build your child's confidence and give them um, the the stamina and the strength to be able to rise above certain things that have happened and carry on. We can build their independence at home by following routines. Establish these routines. They're important and stick to them. Mum, dad, everybody, we have a routine. For example, when we come home from school, what do? Do you fling your school bag down, kick your school shoes? Do they kick their school shoes off? Or do we let them put their school bag down, unpack it, put their dirty, lunchbox in the sink, and place their school shoes neatly where they will be ready for tomorrow? These little simple examples make a big difference to your child's confidence because they're set up and they're ready. Do you read books to your children? Talk about the characters in the books. Develop children's interests, just like I was saying about Jeff, and Jeff is my husband, and Jet, the love of trucks. So Jeff used to take Jet to truck shows. There's a truck show called Shine and Show. So they would go and look at trucks or whatever, developing the interest. So become involved in family activities. Get them helping with cooking, cleaning, washing, sorting, folding, not watching the TV. If they don't know about the TV, there's a time and a place for TV, but there's a very important place for being a contributor to the family and feeling valued. Choosing the menu, or tonight, Jet peeled the potatoes, or the different things, or made the dessert. A lovely dessert that Eden likes to make is chia pudding for everybody. That's a beautiful, simple little dessert, and everybody enjoys her cooking. So, letting them shine in their own light. What about, I have a sock basket now, and I don't know what happens, but the fairies nick the
I don't know.
socks. I think every home has a odd odd
I have
sock
like
basket.
150 single socks. I'm was looking at this week. Like, what do I do
There
with these
they
things?
go. But pairing socks is a great activity. It's a great conversation. We sit down around the sock basket. We used to when the kids were little, and pair socks and have fun. We used to call it the sock party. But it's a important activity. We all wear socks, so we all help to look after them. And the big thing that I'm really passionate about, and one of the big predictors in school in learning, is the quality of the child's vocabulary and their ability to talk. Television does not help in children learning to talk. Talking with another person is what is needed. Conversation, interaction. Oral language is the foundation for reading. Reading is the cornerstone for literacy. Literacy is the cornerstone for their learning at school. Get them, at all levels. Talk to your kids. Use adult words, Don't use baby words. Use vocabulary. Talk in sentences. Children are coming to school now not able to say anything other than a very simple sentence.
Wow.
Like a simple sentence is, a few words, say 5 words. So building confidence at school quickly. If you've got a child that's anxious, zero, foundation right up to year 6, arrive early together. Avoid the stress of the peak hour rush. Arrive early. Spend time in the green. Walk around the football ground or whatever. We have a walk to school program here. It's a week they dedicate to exercise, increasing exercise. Take that on and do it every day of the week. Park the car a block away and then walk and talk to school, or arrange to meet mum, meet a friend there, or the child's friend, and park a block away. Walk and talk together. you know, in a little group, or bring your scooters, scoot to school. It's fun. That's what we used to do. Pick up a friend. If they're struggling to arrive at school, pick up a friend, offer to take their friend with them to school, and that helps. Or you can arrange to meet your friend at the gate so that you arrive together. Now, importantly, talk to the teacher. Share your concerns. As soon as you are aware of something that's starting to brew, take action. If you see that, my little motto is, if you see the need, take the action, whatever that action that's relevant to what you're picking up on. It's a very valid thing to do, to speak to the teacher, put them in the know, and they have within their power some options that they might be able to offer you, but they can't offer you if you don't share your concern with your child early, before it exacerbates and gets worse. Anxiety won't cure itself. It takes intervention. Right from the first worry, we need to address it at that level. So whatever the age of the child, it's a good thing to encourage them to talk to you. So ask your teacher as well about curriculum themes that they're talking about. So for just a simple thing, are they talking about, frogs? Let's say they're talking about frogs. Well, what can you do at home to learn about and talk about frogs? Get your children to teach you about frogs, or let's learn together about frogs. Look at frogs on YouTube. Go to the library. Let's find books about frogs or whatever. But the big thing is, be aware of what they're learning about, so you can engage in conversation and make it a shared experience. That really does help, and you can follow up on the learning. Maths, a lot of maths learning can be done in the home. Your teachers, engage them in cooking, like Eden loves making the chia pudding. Measuring out, is important, and weighing things, talking in grams and kilograms and things. Using, for example, teaching fractions, cutting the family pie into, if you make pie, just for example, cutting it into pieces. Now, how many pieces? Which is bigger, a half or an eighth? My children used to always think that when you'd ask them, one out of the 8 parts was going to be the biggest, because 8 was the highest number. And then when you show them what it is, that real hands-on experience goes across everything for all children, including them in all things that
So
you're doing
Claire,
with the family.
so we're at 5 after, so we're
Oh,
running
yes. So
over.
I'm just about to finish up. This is
Okay,
it.
great. Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I was going to leave you with is, here are the twins. Now, where are your children at now? How would you like to describe your child when they're 18, on their 18th birthday? Stand up and, I want you to be able to think about what you would like and how you would like to see your child at 18. Because at 18, if this is what we want, calm, peaceful, well-organized, creative, problem solvers, we don't wait till they're 18 to get it. We start now. Wherever the child is at, whatever age they are, we start to parent them with the end in mind. And that's a habit of highly effective people. Start with the end in mind, and then reverse engineer and go back. What can I do with those thoughts in mind? And a final thought: there are few legacies we can leave our children that are greater than the legacy of resilience and well-being. So
Beautiful.
thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Claire. I really appreciate it. Just so those of you who asked questions that we didn't get to them, we will circle back around and either send those out through email or in our Facebook group, because I know there's a lot that that people are wanting to know. So let me 1 second. Let me look and see if there's any quick ones we can answer right now. This is a really good one that perhaps Claire you can answer quickly. Is excitement and anxiety, are they the same?
Sorry, oh, I had a little drink. What was
That's
that?
okay.
Is
Are anxiety and excitement, are they the same or how are they different?
they're different?
In what
And
ways?
they're very, very different. As I, through my lens, I see
Hmm.
them as very different. If you define excitement, what's the body expression about excitement? What's the state that they're in? You know, they're heightened, they're happy, they're usually with excitement comes that feeling of something anticipated and whatever. However, um, underneath that might be a little feeling of wondering. You know, we can be excited, but we haven't gone through the experience yet. So we can be a little hesitant
Hmm.
about what lays in store for, like if they're going on school camp, for example, their very first school camp was, I remember, a big deal for our girls and the twins. They were really excited, but the excitement was being with their friends and having a great time away from home. But the thing that worried them, all of them, was the sleeping away from and out of the family home. So there was a little bit of anxiety or anxiousness or worry about that. And the other thing was, would they get food they didn't like?
I was just talking to somebody about camp, and those were the two things they brought up. So it's funny that you say that.
Food
Yeah,
and sleep,
that's
basic
funny.
human needs, aren't they?
Right. Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Claire, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We'll be sending out some more information, some more follow-up support around anxiety in schools and school refusal. So keep an eye out for that in your emails and also in the Facebook group. And it just so happens our next webinar is on breathing exercises and how to bring that into your home. So it's really a good building block because you know what Claire was teaching us about the hand, we're going to be talking to someone who is going to bring that a little more into focus for us, how to bring that to our kids and how to bring that to our family so that we can help to reduce anxiety. So that's a great follow-up. So I hope you'll join
Yeah,
us for that.
lovely.
If everyone can give Claire a quick heart in the reactions so we can show her how much we appreciate her. And big hearts to all of you too for coming tonight. We are so thankful that you're here with us, and we hope to see you next time. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.